Hello, everyone, and welcome today. I'm glad to have you here. We just have a few things that we want to kind of talk to you about that have changed since recruitment and COVID-19, as in our title. The first thing I was going to tell you about was our COVID-19 guidance for research participants. We realized as we went along in March, when everything was starting to shut down and we were pausing the studies, that we were getting an increased amount of calls from participants wanting to know if they could still participate, what had happened. Some of them were still in studies, and we put this together just to direct them to where they could find them. We actually worked with quite a few different groups. Since we are part of the CTSA grant, we actually can reach out with different groups, and I'm part of the recruitment and retention group. There's about 60 on the call, if not more at times, and I just put out something, what are you doing about pausing human subject research at your universities? And many of them came back with suggestions, some information. I brought that back, and there was a huge group that got to working on it. The CCTS, the Vice President of Research, the Emergency Operations Service that was reviewing everything that was COVID related, and several more were involved in it. We were happy to get it out there. It's on every one of our pages on the CCTS, and we've also pushed it out on social media so that the participants know what is actually going on when it comes to research studies. And as we move along, the phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 here eventually, it'll eventually come down. But right now that's what's that. And with the research advertising, this is with ORI, and they've actually done some updates to that. And it was just a reminder to go out, and anytime you do a research study, make sure you look over if there's anything new that they require. It's a wonderful, quick guide. It's the maze, the musts, and the don'ts are in there as well in their research, recruitment, and advertising packet. Or you can go on and look at their IRB review of recruitment and advertising video, which is very well put together as well, and all the information's there, and you can listen to it. Next thing is the Office of Vice President of Research. This is just a reminder for the resumption of research phase restart plan. If you're planning to use the CCTS facilities, please upload your approved plan with your CCTS services request form. You fill it out with that. And just even if you're not using our facilities, you still have to complete that, and it's approved by the Vice President. This is one thing that I'd worked on. After having so many of these studies closed down, we thought, why not start working on pre-screening forms when they are ready to roll out again, that you can use them to find eligible participants in the studies. And then at the same time, Dr. Kenneth Campbell was working on information on how to do a sample of the remote consent form, remote informed consent, I'm sorry. And then I had the other one. So all this information was over on our ORI site as well. I started pulling it together. I put together a lot of sample language we've used from other forms, and it's generic at this point in time. You can look at it, you can pull whatever information that you need to pull, and it started on your remote informed consent or your remote pre-screening forms for potential participants. And make sure you get your red cap account as well. So once these were accomplished, and many of them have already done pre-screening forms, we started adding them to the website. They had a IRB approval to add them onto the website. We've also pushed them out in social media. Many of them are having a lot of people complete them and are working well for them. The other thing I wanted to show you was the clinicalresearch.com, the online submit forms. This is how people are coming back and telling us, how did you learn about this study? It's been great to kind of see, and it gives us an idea what's working best for the studies. And I've always used this information before, but it's always been other people that have put together the information. And it's great to be able to do it here now at the university with the CCTS having the website. We can capture this information. So Facebook, you'll see, sorry, had 1,640, came through that way. The biggest number have come through is through the ukclinicalresearch.com, and that's why we put it on everything. So between October 2019 to July 2020, we're getting close to 10,000 people that have seen it. Yes, recruitment's been a little bit slow right now. The hits aren't what they were a year ago at this time, but it's starting to pick up again and people are looking to be in studies. It's surprising how many word of mouth. These are a lot of the drug studies, the marijuana, the alcohol, the opiates. That's one way people still communicate to each other. You can see the providers, radio, newspaper, and this slot here is actually apps, which haven't had any advertising at all, even though we have actually created a few advertising apps. Google's List is a big one, jobs, and also Craigslist. Those are some of the top 3. The other one is the paid boost ads. We've been doing a lot more of those. And this is just an example of Dr. Maloney's ad that she had on a survey on sleep, stress, alcohol use during COVID-19 outbreak. For the free post, the flyer, which is what we put on the website, but we don't put the whole image. We take it and break it apart so that people can actually do a search on the words that are in there. 73 people it reached, and then 5 engaged. That means they either clicked on the ad or shared the ad or something. And then this is actually the picture you see here is the news article link. We reposted that as well. And that's something we can do too on a lot of different media, our Instagram, our Twitter, our Facebook, all those that we can push it out on. UK Healthcare will also push it out, and so will UK Research. The news link, there were 60 reached on that and 3 engaged. And this, she also did a paid boost ad for 200. That had 160,000 plus impressions. That means the number of times your ad was actually seen on the screen. And then 278 plus were reached, the number who actually saw your ad at least once. And this may include multiple views of ads about the same people, but that's quite a few. And then this one, the way I put it in there was it would pay on click. So 44 people actually clicked on the ad, and that's how many times you achieved your outcome. So with that, I will let Ashley Hall speak next.
Okay, well, so good afternoon. My name is Ashley Hall, and I'm the Research Project Manager for 2 cores at CCTS, Community Engagement and Research Core and Participant Recruitment Services. And I want to talk to you all today about how PRS advertising and media have changed in light of COVID-19. So first, I would like the research community to know that we are still placing your research study flyers in 7 locations, both on and off campus. As a reminder, these locations are Chandler Hospital, Pavilion H, 1st floor, College of Nursing, 3rd floor, across from the cafe, College of Pharmacy, Employee Health, Good Samaritan Hospital, Shriners Hospital for children. We have the freestanding post here in the lobby, the picture you see on the right, and also at Turfland in the Barnstable Brown Clinic behind the exam room doors. So what has changed about our flyer placement? Well, the frequency of placement has changed. PRS is now changing flyers out on a quarterly basis. So the last time we were out was June, and our next round of reposting and updating will take place next month in September. The next thing I'd like to discuss with you all is how PRS media production processes have changed, specifically related to research study videos. So before COVID, PRS led every aspect of video production for study teams. This includes filming on site, taking all photos, providing background music, and rendering all cuts of the video per the feedback from the study team and researcher. However, after COVID-19, and due to suspension of on-site filming and photography, we have developed more of a tag team approach. So what I mean by this, and this is laid out in the following steps 1 through 4, is that the study team, well, PRS, let me back up, provides the study teams with a sample storyboard. So here on the right, you will see a 12-frame storyboard, and this goes well with a 90-second video. So we will provide information also about the photos that can be incorporated into the storyboard, i.e. if you're recording or taking photos, turn your cell phone horizontally to capture the best images. We do give advice about the resolution of the images and what will work best in the video. And then we also ask that the study team provides the sample background music. So after we receive this information from the study team, the PRS team, and specifically our media specialist, Brian Sanders, will take the first cut of the video and polish it. So this would include editing the photos, making them appropriate size, helping with the transitions between each of the slides under photos. And I want to point out that this new approach is mutually beneficial, both to the researchers and the research community, because the final product truly resonates with the desired population because it comes from the community themselves. So there's a sense of ownership to that product. So last, I just want to show you a really great example of this new process. I'm going to show you a video today that was created for a study that is examining COVID-19 and the impact on church congregants. So researchers from the College of Nursing and College of Medicine are currently looking at this. I want to point out that this study team took their own photos that you will see in the video. They provided their own music, and they used the 12-panel storyboard that I showed in the previous slide to create a first cut of their video. Brian took that cut, polished it, cleaned things up, added UK logos, and it has resulted in a really wonderful product. So I will give a disclaimer that sometimes showing video over Zoom, you can get some lags in the timing. But I want you to know that this video will be available on our CCTS YouTube page right after the conclusion of our presentation, if you'd like to go check it out then.
COVID-19 changed us. It has changed the way we live, work, learn, play, and it has also changed the way we worship. Yet, the church has been creative in the delivery of the message and has continued to be a beacon of hope during these uncertain times. But we know these changes haven't been without struggle and difficulty. Funded by the University of Kentucky, investigators from the College of Nursing and Medicine have joined forces to conduct a church-based study to take a closer look at the impact COVID-19 has had on the church. This project is being conducted in churches in both Appalachia and African American churches in Central Kentucky. The study will explore the knowledge, attitudes, and beliefs about COVID-19 and the impact it has had on behaviors, health, finances, and well-being among church attenders. We are grateful for your church's participation in our project, and we are pleased to provide financial compensation to the church. But now we need your help. By completing a 15-minute online survey, your experience can be recorded. Your responses will be confidential. Simply visit the website you have been provided and enter your church's ID number. There you will answer questions about your experience related to COVID-19. If you don't have access to the internet, paper copies can be provided. We know we are living in unprecedented times, but by participating in our study, your experience can be documented. We want your voice to be heard.
Okay, and with that, I am going to turn it over to Mallory Powell, our CCTS Communications Director, so she can explain more about the media changes that have occurred during COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Hi, everybody. My name is Mallory Powell, and I am the CCTS Communications Director. And today I'll just talk for a few minutes about public relations and media for recruitment during this COVID-19 era, whether or not your studies are about COVID-19. I wanted to start with just a few general things to keep in mind with media related to recruitment. One is that there's earned media and paid media. So earned media is things that we don't pay for, basically. And that would be something like a reporter reaching out to us to do a story, or me reaching out to reporters to pitch a story. Paid media is when you buy time for a commercial or when you buy time for a radio ad. And that's something that Roxanne, who spoke earlier, can help you with. I really focus mainly on earned media. We do not have control over earned media, is something that's really important to remember. We don't have control over outside editorial decisions or schedules. So if something's published, for example, in UK Now, which is in-house, we do have a lot of control over that. But if we're working with a reporter from an outside organization, we don't have as much control. We do have a lot of capacity to urge and nudge behavior and wording that we want to use, but we don't have complete control. Let's see here. Oops. There are capacity limitations. That's internally and externally. We have limited staff internally, and there's limited airtime externally. Reporters are usually really overburdened as media outlets have cut staff over the years. So just because we want to do media doesn't mean we always can get it. When we do get media to work out, it can cause an uptick in calls or emails for your study, so you just need to be prepared for that. And if you do media for recruitment, your plan and any media produced in-house, such as a health column or an article or a video, needs to have IRB approval. So one media opportunity that we have had some success with is a health column space that we have in the Richmond Register, and we can also get into other outlets as well. So with these, generally, you write, I edit, kind of like with the videos that Ashley just discussed. We've had to develop a little bit of a tag team approach to these. In the past, I used to really ghostwrite them, and we have a lot going on right now and a lot of studies that we want to promote. So we are using more of a tag team model with that. But don't despair, these are really short. They're about 350 words. They need to be written for a lay audience. So we generally aim for about an 8th grade reading level. This is just a really different way from writing than I think a lot of us are used to in the research world. So I can provide examples, and I definitely can help and edit. We can possibly get publication for health columns in the Richmond Register newspaper, also in UK Now, UK healthcare newsletters that go out, and we can work on pushing out to regional papers. A lot of these really depend on the audience you're trying to reach. One example of a health column that we've run recently is for a study about sleep, stress, and alcohol use during COVID-19. So we ran this column in all of the publications I just mentioned. Here's a screenshot of it included in the Loop newsletter from UK Healthcare. We can also pitch some interviews to reporters. We can do this one way through radio. We've had really good success with WUKY and WEKU, and we are exploring working with the Lexington Community Radio. And I've just included a picture here of a study that was featured on Greg Davis's radio show On Medicine. And he interviewed the PI for that study. Again, we can always reach out to reporters about setting up these interviews, but sometimes they can say no. Same thing with television. One thing that's been a little bit of a positive change with media and recruitment these days is that because reporters are never coming on site and interviewees never have to go to the station, interviews are a lot easier because everything's over Zoom. You often need to provide pictures or at least suggest images that a reporter can use in a video story. Again, they can't come on site and do B-roll filming. That's something I can help you with, so don't worry about that too much. And again, just remember that even if we reach out and try to get a story, we might not always be successful for that for various reasons. Media has been more interested in recruitment stories lately, especially if they're related to COVID, than they have been in the past. So we've seen some uptake in that. If you're interested in discussing any media options, please contact me, or you can also reach out to your UK Public Relations Liaison. Every department and college on campus has a public relations liaison. They're all listed here at this link. You can also just Google University of Kentucky Public Relations staff, and you can search for who your public relations person is. I work very closely with the public relations office. I meet with them every week because stories often have a lot of overlap in different areas. So please just reach out if this is something that you're interested in, and we'd be happy to help you explore some options. And now I will turn it over to Dr. Meghan Marsac, and she's going to talk about her experience recruiting in a study, and she's used a lot of the things that we've just talked about.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a project that we just started. And this project is funded by the CCTS pilot funding mechanism for our COVID research. So we did use both CCTS pilot funding, and we have been learning more and more about other supportive services that the CCTS offers, such as these recruitment services that I'll talk about today. So for our study, we were really interested in looking at how are our parents doing in the world of COVID and the world of this pandemic, and how are our preschool age kids. So this study, we're really looking at kids ages 1 to 5. And this is actually a partnership with an international collaborator. The study was actually launched out of Australia, and they started data collection there. They're a few months ahead of us, so they've got a little bit of a jump on us. But so we took some of the methodology that they had implemented there and wanted to take a look at some of those same outcomes here in the United States. We also have some partners in Poland and Spain and Scotland as well, and we're looking to kind of grow that collaboration over time. UK is the study lead here at the US, and so we are tasked with trying to figure out how do we best recruit kids of preschool age kids, or I'm sorry, parents of preschool age kids, to give us information about how their family is doing. Our large project goals are to figure out what are people struggling with the most, and what can we offer, what kind of programs can we develop to help support our families through these kinds of events. So we were able to take a look at what's happened in the past when we were framing this research study. So the pandemics are somewhat similar to natural disasters, except the one thing that we will often say with natural disasters when we're trying to promote adaptation and positive emotional recovery is that we want people to get together, to use a lot of social support, to return to their normal activities as quickly as possible, and to really engage and support each other. And what has happened by the nature of having to manage this pandemic is all the recommendations to stay safe are opposite of that. So we're recommending separation, isolation, closing our schools and daycare centers, restricting activities and gatherings. So a lot of the things that we know from a mental health perspective that often help families get over these kinds of big, really huge challenges in the world are the things that we can't do right now. So we need to learn in the context of a pandemic, when isolation and separation is the way of safety, what can we do for our kids and families, and what are the biggest things families are struggling with? So in this study, we really wanted to focus on our younger kids. Many of the research studies that have been done have looked at school age or teenagers. We have a lot more data on how adults do during pandemics and the struggles that adults have, but we really have very little data about, one, how pandemics affect this age group, but also how other trauma exposures affect this age group too. It's a really understudied population. So we decided we were going to focus on our preschool kids. The other reason that we thought a focus on preschool kids is a good idea is it gives you a lot of time to intervene to help them stay on their developmental trajectory, stay on their path, so that we promote healthy development from an early young age. So thinking about it both as potential intervention, but also prevention and promoting healthy development in our kids and families. So our basic research questions are, how are our families doing, and how do we support our families? And we wanted to kind of get a broad-based kind of across the United States, and in with everything that's kind of going on in the US, we wanted to take a look at how does that differ across different communities. And then also we'll be comparing these results with some of our international data as well. So our primary constructs, we're looking at COVID-19 exposure. So have families had direct exposure? Have they had, do they know anybody with COVID? Or are the exposures more indirect? Like, are they potentially affecting job changes, job loss, financial restrictions? Are they afraid because of the media? Kind of what is everybody seeing? We want to look at what are other potential trauma exposures. So what were our families already dealing with when then COVID got layered on top? And then also kind of what new trauma exposures does this bring along with it? We wanted to look at our emotional, behavioral, and relationship difficulties. Are our kids having more trauma symptoms? Are they having increased anxiety? You know, a lot of times when we have these big trauma exposures, we have things like kids having trouble sleeping, having more worries about things. Are we having acting out behaviors? So like our tantruming kids, particularly in this age group, we know that one of the ways that kids show us they're upset is they might, throw a big old tantrum, but not really be able to describe what's going on. So we wanted to take a look at some of these markers that our parents might be observing and figure out, does this look different during this current pandemic time than it does typically? We also know that our kids' reactions are greatly impacted by our parents. So we wanted to take a look at like how are parents doing as well. What is their self-reported depression and anxiety? What are parents struggling with also? And then kind of look together at, are there families that are having a lot of trouble, all together? Are there certain kids that are more at risk? Are there certain parents that are more at risk, so that we can tailor programs over time? We also conducted a needs assessment. So we have parents fill out data about symptoms and struggles that they're having, but then also, would you use therapy if it was offered? Would you want in-person therapy during this kind of a pandemic? Would you want phone assessments? Would you want video? Can we do internet resources? So kind of try to get a sense of what most families would take most advantage of, so we know how to tailor our resources to help support our families through these times of crises. So as I mentioned before, this is an international partnership with some colleagues in Australia, Poland, Scotland, and Spain currently, and that's kind of growing and expanding over time. We are having more requests for other countries to join on board. We're using REDCap to collect our data. We set up online recruitment, which we thought was very timely given COVID and all the restrictions that we have. In the US, our goal is to collect data on 5,000 US families, hopefully. We really want to get some nationwide representation. We're collecting data at baseline, and then again at 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months, follow up all 100% online. Families do have the option to make it completely anonymous and not provide an email address for follow-up. So for some of our families, we might just have baseline data. So that all sounds great. And we're like, okay, we've got this study. We finally got REDCap working. We've got our IRB approved. We've got a little bit of pilot funding. So on a very, very teeny tiny budget, how can we possibly try to recruit all these families that we are aiming to recruit? This is new kinds of research for me. I'm not an internet researcher or web-based researcher in general, so this was all new for me as well. So luckily, I learned about the CCTS's Participant Recruitment Services, and they've been really, really helpful in providing us all kinds of ideas along the way. So one of the things that was most helpful, and Roxanne actually sent this information to me multiple times before I actually put it in my IRB. I do recognize that. I don't know if she recognized that, but some template advertising language. And I think in the beginning, I was kind of tailoring it for the study, but what I ended up doing in the end is just taking her language and putting it directly in and making sure it made sense. And that just worked so much better. It covers mostly, most of what we wanted to do and beyond potentially. So that was actually really, really helpful. And I recommend anybody who's going to be working with the CCTS on the Participant Recruitment Services, just take their language in the beginning and put it in and just make sure it tailors and fits, but to really use what they have offer for you. We coordinated with PR, so we worked with Mallory and some other team members to both make sure we got our flyers approved, to coordinate and develop the social media posts, to get language for research match. And one of the things that was really helpful for me as a PI was that the CCTS took on, making sure that we had the right language, making sure it got approved by the right people at UK, and then handing it back to us to put it through the IRB. So just that coordination process and knowing I didn't have to figure out who was the next person to contact, how do I get this approved, who do I work with, that was really helpful and really a time saver for us, in addition to their contributions on actually creating the materials as well. They also help us place things on the UK websites. So they know where it can go all over UK. For me, it was more of like trying to research and see, but they knew where to put it right away, and they got that up for us in a really seamless way. I also worked with Roxanne to help connect to Research Match. This was also a new service for me. So it's basically a whole slew of folks. There's over 100,000 people that have registered for this service that they send out advertisements to if they might be a potential match for your study. And then your study gets their contact information to offer research participation to these folks. So for us, this is a real advantage because it's across the nation. You can limit it by location if you need to. You can also limit by different healthcare conditions and whatnot. But for us, we really have a wide net. And so to be able to send this out across the country is a real advantage of that study. And we just recently got that posted up. So we'll see how that works for us over time. They also, the CCTS coordinated, so we did do some PR for outreach. I'm going to show you a couple of examples of some of the media that we've done around the research study as well. So this is just an example of one of the flyers that they helped us create. So we have a QR code, contact information on there. They helped us get it all signed off on and make sure it was approved. And also made sure we had language so that we could post them wherever we needed to, both within the university and externally as well. Here's an example of some of the posts that we did, so that they created the post for our social media pages, and then also made sure that the University of Kentucky Children's was sharing this as well, and they've shared it in a few different places also. So this is the Facebook post. They also did I think this is a tweet. Yeah, I am learning social media as I go as well. This is not natural for me. So having a team that knows what they're doing with this has been really, really helpful also. And then also having the team take it on themselves to figure out which teams at the University of Kentucky can share this and help promote the study on behalf of our team has been really helpful. So this is the information that they posted up on their own website as well. So they're highlighting it there. They have direct links for people to sign up. So if people are visiting the CCTS, they can see the CCTS is funded, but also that this is an opportunity for people to participate in research directly off of the CCTS's website. This is the example of the Research Math website. So I think I just actually posted the first one yesterday. We've already had some people sign up saying they're interested for the study. So we're in the process of contacting all of those folks. And Roxanne was really helpful in walking us through this and answering any questions that I've had with this along the way. So this was another thing that was brand new to me that I wouldn't have known about without their recruitment services. And here's screenshots from a couple of the news interviews that we've done. So working with both my representative, Hillary Brown, who helps with UK Pediatrics, and Mallory trying to figure out kind of how to promote this out in the news. So we've done several news interviews where we talked about mental health during the pandemic, and they all also advertised the study and provided links to the study to help get the word out in our community as well. There was a few different print materials that went out as well. It went out in our UK Now newsletter. And then also I think it went in the Richmond Registry that somebody had mentioned before, and then Kentucky Today picked this up as well. So I'm kind of getting the word out to our local community about the study through all these different mechanisms. So our progress to date, we started a couple of weeks ago on July 27th. We've recruited 211 folks so far. So we're very far away from our goal of 5,000, but for the kinds of research that I usually do, this was a very, very quick start. So we're hoping to continue to build over time. So some of the challenges that we're facing, and I would be happy to hear anybody's ideas on this call today, if anybody has ideas about how to kind of continue to recruit and continue to push this out. We really would like to see some more diversity in our participants. So far, we've had a very highly educated parent group completing the survey with people have pretty solid resources. And so what we've learned from now is we know what people who are professionals with a fair amount of resources are struggling with during this pandemic. But what we also want to know is for the other folks that have fewer resources, for folks that are in other kinds of jobs or struggling at home or have had job loss, what is that looking like for those families? So we think the needs and the support that we might want to offer might be different for those different groups of people. We need to do ongoing posts and outreach. So we definitely see when we do a big push, when we did our first social media pushes, that was when we got the most of our participants kind of right at the beginning. And then they've kind of been slowly kind of filtering in after that. So we have a need for kind of ongoing recruitment and ongoing pushes. We have some ideas as far as connecting with local schools, potentially local preschools. We are printing flyers and hanging them up kind of all over the city in places that parents might see them. But given that we want national representation and we have to think creatively, I don't have somebody, out in Milwaukee hanging up flyers. We have provided the study to many colleagues across the country. And we do have partners at Boston Children's and down at University of Missouri and Nemours, Delaware, that are promoting it more directly in their communities as well. But kind of outside of that, how are we going to reach these folks more across the U.S.? If anyone who is in this talk is interested in helping sign up for the study or sharing with others, we have multiple ways that the study can be shared. You can share the link, which is provided here, and I'm assuming we can make this available to everybody who's on this presentation as well. You can share the email address, and if folks email us at that email address, then we email them the link directly. You can share some of the social media posts. So if you jump on KCH's webpage, you can share directly from the posts that they posted. Or if you Google my Facebook page, I have it as a public post as well under my name. You can also share the flyer. So I'm happy to make that available to anybody as well, or the QR code. So people can just scan that with their phone and it takes them directly to the website study link. So I think that gives us a fair amount of time for any questions or ideas. I think for the whole CCTS participant recruitment team, I think they're available for questions, but also if you have any questions for me about this study or ideas, I would love to hear them.